Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy 2026. And let's get this year started with the right way. Today, we're going to talk about data context and visualization, and we'll jump right into it. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, when you have more rich applications, it's very common that your interface, the data that you're looking, and the visualization, there is a context that connect many objects on the display. For instance, in this case, when you do the navigation on the tree, it's not only the tree object that changes, it changes the entire UI because you're selecting another assets. In a similar way, if you do the navigation through these objects, you also are modifying context on the title in other areas of the display. So when you have your navigation or explain a more generic concept, when you have the contexts of your user interaction, there are many UI controls, titles, many objects that may need to be affected by the user interaction in another control.
Yeah.
You have one user interface, but you can do the navigation through the tree, you can navigation through the control, you may have a tab control in the top. So we have many elements that you need to keep the synchronization among all those UI elements.
Perfect.
And how to do that? That's the key point. Uh, Many years ago, we had in our products the ability to send messages. And I was watching a presentation. I'll be kind of not say which product was because it wasn't ours, and say, oh, look how easy you can do. You can do that when you do a click here, we can post a message to the UI, and then you go to the script on that other page, and you capture the message queue, and you open the parameters, and you have the name of the asset selected, so the other control can react. And that young engineer was explaining, very happy, how powerful was the feature and easy. But the problem is for smart engineers, they may think easy, but it's not easy. It was lots of scripting, message queuing, and we have that concept in our product, but we are no longer using for many years because we replaced that with a concept that, as far as I know, almost any product has, that is on the unified namespace, on the tag base, we have the concept of domain, meaning that your variables, they can be by default server sites. It means your assets, the value of your assets, they are applied to the entire solution. So all operators using those assets will have, of course, the same value for the press state, for the temperature. But we also can create variables like this data structure UI that's client side, which the scope of that data is different to each operator. That's
Perfect.
simple. So a simple example. Of course, when I'm looking the data of this machine, if I have the machine Elba 1 selected, the data of this machine will be the same to all operators. But at the same time, one operator may be looking the data of Elba 1, and the other operator may be looking the data of Elba 7, or even be another complete different contexts of the data and the interaction they are having with the application.
Makes sense.
If I select a report, I may want to see a report starting on or an alarm page or a query in a grid starting in one date or in another date. And those user selections, they are also specific to each user. If you want to query one specific order, different operators, they will be querying different data. at the same time.
Perfect.
So instead of creating that at each control, send message here and there and do everything from script, you just create one simple data structure. And we recommend to you for user types, you can create the tags, but if you do for user types, you have a better organization. Typically, we create a UI data structure, and all the variables of context, which asset select and which subpage I have in that area, they are specific to that user operator, we put in that data structure. So which asset selected, what is the title that you are showing in the toolbar? So we create a data structure or a set of variables. That's the operator context.
Mm-hmm.
And this context, very easy to set up, is related to the computer or even to the user login. So if you log out from one station and you log in another station, you will receive all your contexts automatically.
Beautiful.
Because they are variables. So that is the explanation of what means client-side tag. It's a concept you don't have common unified namespaces because it's our own frameworks extension.
Beautiful.
So client-side tags, they are variables that are part of the unified namespace. But unlike most of the variables in unified namespace that are global central repository of data, those client-side tags, they're specific to each machine, client machine, or to each remote operator, base definition that you do. So it allows, with minimal programming, make the synchronization that when you modify the tree, the tab control, or the UI, all the objects just follow through your contexts. Okay.
Awesome.
And that's so common in the applications that in some cases you don't even need to create tags for that. Who is starting to get familiar with platform knows that you have that concept of namespaces. So on the client namespace, we have everything that's on the client side. And we have a predefined variable called contexts.
No, nice.
With a bunch of free to use variables. So what is your asset name selected? Which area of your application selected? What is the equipment name? To be clear, those is just a template with the definition, but you will do how you use that in your application. Okay. Of course, we try to make simple for you. So if you're doing a visualization for your assets tree and you put an asset tree on a display, an asset tree on a display looks like that. Okay. You see that the programming of these objects by default on the configuration, we use those variables. So when I'm doing the navigation on that tree, if I want to know which branch, what is the name of the asset selected, we automatically populate the internal variable client.context.assetsName. So when you have your application running, if I just want, for instance, to do this application here that I'm showing the asset's name here on the top,
Yeah.
is just populate, getting the property here and use that same client-side variable here. And the final concept to wrap up is that we have that concept of variables of local scope, and we have two sets of variables. We have all the ones that are predefined on the client.context, okay? So everything that's client dots is local to the user. And we have here many variables for you to use that by default we put some standard behavior. And in top of that, Additionally, for even more advanced solutions, when you create your variables, you just put domain clients. It means that variable to be client side. So I finalize giving you an example. If I'm going to have an input field to create my report initial dates, and I'll put an UI to capture which data I want that report starts. I'll create that variable with type date time, and I'll make the domain clients.
Nice.
So this variable will be specific to display. So if I go to my drawing tools, and if I'm going to create here input fields to do that kind of interaction, I can pick up the date time picker or just the date picker, put that on the display, and map the value would be to my reports initial dates.
Awesome.
So in this case, I very easily create these input fields that will capture the initial date for the reports in the context of this operator only. So I can use that on the scripts, on the code behind of the display. I can use that in other controls on the UI, just doing the reference for that variable instead of having to create lots of scripts to send message here, capture there, and do that configuration. And the problem with that configuration by brute force using scripts, when you are doing, you have everything loaded here. 2 years later,
Yes.
we need to give maintenance for that application. I am Italian descendant, that we call spaghetti. What looks like the application.
You cut off a little bit, Mark. You mentioned that 2 years later we're going to give maintenance, and nobody has any idea, right?
Exactly, exactly. And being Italian descendant, we call that kind of application like a spaghetti application. You have to pick up one little piece and keep it following the path for that to find the many ways that are used. Or
Yes.
in the other hand, you can have your tag database, which variables are client sites. You can very easily have the proper description and the context on what are your variables. And you can also, if necessary, go to cross-reference and find the places where that client data is being used inside your application. So if I go to my tag.report initial time, that it's being used here in this page called main page in this control. So when I am in my tag database, I can request the cross-reference for that variable. And it's showing that, okay, this variable is defined here and is used here. So you can have a very easy way to understand the data flow and the user interaction and the logic behind your application in a very straightforward way.
Perfect. I think it all comes down to you want to build displays, and obviously you want the clients to interact, the operator to interact with it. This is an easy way of doing it without all the scripting, without all the
Yeah,
roundabout ways. Easy and simple. You just create the tags. Um,
that's it.
yeah, perfect. We do have more information on that on our documentation if you're interested. We'll also be available for Q&A at our Discord. So you can go ahead. The link to that is below in the description of this video. You can also find it on our website. I will ask you guys to follow our YouTube channel if you have not already. You can also leave a like to this video. I would appreciate that very much.
And one thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
happy 2026.
Yes, of course. And to next week, we've got a big special technical Tuesday around ML.net and our AI tools. We're really excited. If you have not registered yet, I will add the link on the description for this event as well. You can also find it on our website, our LinkedIn page. Follow us on our socials. That way you won't miss a thing. So I hope to see you all there. And yeah, like you said, happy 2026. Thank you, everyone.